Hi everyone, there will be a quiz at the end of this lesson to test your knowledge on everything that we have learnt so far, so make sure to take notes and pause the video if you need to. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to Lesson 3 in your Rockschool Music Production course, Grade 1 with me, Katie Russell and Planet Drum. In the previous lesson, we looked at different instruments, we looked at microphones, and we looked at BandLab for Education and starting up your own project for your coursework. In today's lesson, we're going to look at cables, we're going to look at mixing desks, we're going to look at different file formats, and we're also going to have a look at DAWS, DAWs, and what a lot of them look like, because at the moment, we've only really seen BandLab. To start off with, I want to talk about cables, and you can find this in page 13 of your Music Production Rockschool book. The first one we're going to look at is an XLR cable. So these types of cables are mainly used for microphones. There is a picture on the screen of an XLR microphone, and you can also have a look in your book. The next one we're going to look at is 1/4 inch jack. These are used for guitars, amps, patch cables in recording studios if they have patch cables, and studio headphones. Next we have a 3.5mm jack or mini jack, and this is consumer headphones. These ones are slightly smaller. I can show you here. So this is the 1/4 inch jack for slightly bigger headphones, but you can get these adapters. So this comes off, and this would be your 3.5mm jack, which usually would plug into your phone, iPhone, iPod, anything like that. The next one we have is phono/RCA. These are used for hi-fi connections. Carrying on then, the next one we're going to look at is a USB cable. You've probably all seen one of these before. These are used for audio interfaces, which I'll show you a little bit later on. And some MIDI keyboards. I've actually got one here. So this is my MIDI keyboard. And you can see the USB cable attached to the end of it, which will go into my computer so I can play the piano into my DAW. You'll also find them for computer mice and keyboards. Next, we have a 5-pin DIN, which is also used for MIDI connections. We've got a D-sub, which is for connecting 8 channels of analog or digital audio. So you will tend to probably find these in like a live concert environment when they're plugging into the back of the mixing desk, or we'll go through this as well a bit later on, but just so you know what it looks like. We've now got a speak-on, which connects an amp to speakers, and we've got an ADAT light pipe. So this is for multi-track connections. Again, you can look at all of these from page 13 and 14 in your music production book. We've talked a little bit about MIDI already, but I just want to go over with you because some of you might not know what MIDI is. So MIDI stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface. And it's a protocol that allows computers and musical instruments and other hardware to all communicate with each other. So for example, with my MIDI keyboard, I can plug that in and my DAW that I use, so BandLab or Logic, will recognize this and I can play and it will play and I can record it into my DAW. Now let's have a look and move on to mixing desks. So you can find this in page 8 of your music production book. What is a mixing desk? They're also known as mixing consoles. It is the focal point of any recording studio or live gig venue, and it basically routes audio signal from one place to another. You can tell what it is from the bank of knobs and faders and buttons. It also has numerous channels which the engineer can allocate to various different instruments. Let's have a look. So we've got an analog one here, and we're just going to work our way down. This is a pretty simple one. They're fairly inexpensive, these little analog ones, and they're great if you're running a small band at home or in a small venue. So at the top, you can see there's 2 inputs there. There's one for an XLR. You can see the 3 holes for the 3 pins. And you've got a little circle there, that's for your jack, so you can also plug in a guitar. We're not going to go through all the buttons, but the top one, the big red one at the top, this is the gain. So this allows you to change how much of the signal of the sound that you're letting in. Going all the way down to the bottom, you've got the black one called the pan. This means you can change the direction of it. So if you only want it coming out of one speaker, you can change it, move it all the way to the left or move it all the way to the right. And then you've got the red fader at the bottom. This is the overall level. And then all the way on the right hand side, you've got the master faders as well. So this is the overall volume of all of the channels. So every fader is a channel. So you can see at the top, you've got 10 to 12 inputs. So you can have 10 to 12 different things. You can have a guitar, a singer, you can mic up a drum kit maybe and use a couple microphones for that. The advantage of using an analog desk like this is that it's pretty simple to use and there is a knob for every function. And can be quite inexpensive as well. Now let's have a look at a digital desk. So this is a picture of what a digital desk could look like. It is usually used for bigger scale studios or live gigs. The advantage of using a digital desk is that you can recall a session. So for example, you've got a band in doing a sound check and you've managed to get all of their levels. You've added some effects on there as well. You know, you've brought down the level of the guitar. So you've got a really nice overall sound. And then you're going out for 2 hours, but then you want to come back. And if you've saved it, you can bring it all back up again. So at the start of the show, you don't have to do anything. You can just bring back all the levels that you did in sound check. That is one of the examples of an advantage of a digital desk like this, but they are a lot more expensive. But you'll see these in studios and live gigs. We're now going to have a look at different formats. So you can find this on page 15 of your music production book. The first ones we are going to look at are analog formats. So I'm going to go over a couple that aren't in here, but you can see straight away on page 15. These are what I would call your analog ones. So you've got your tapes down here, you've got your vinyls, and then you've got digital formats. So this would be your CD. You also have file formats. They don't go through this in your book, but I think it's really important to cover this. You've got different file formats. You might have seen a few of these before. Some examples of these would be WAV, MP3, AAC. We're going to go have a look at them now. MP3 is not that high res, but it's really popular because it is a small file size. So it's really great for storing music on your smartphone or your iPod. AAC is basically Apple's alternative to MP3, and it's used for iTunes and Apple Music streaming. Then we have WAV, which is high resolution, so the sound quality is really good, and all CDs are formatted in WAV. It does mean that it is a really big file size. Next you have AIFF, which is basically again Apple's alternative to WAV. So it's really good high resolution, but it's a really big file. And then we have FLAC, F-L-A-C. This lossless compression format supports high-res sample rates. It takes up half the space of a WAV file, so it's really popular. The downside is it's not supported by Apple, so it's not compatible with iTunes. There are some different formats. I think most of you have probably heard of MP3. I'm not sure if you've heard of the others, but for your coursework, you will have to export as a WAV file. We're now going to have a quick look at computer peripherals. You can find this on page 16 of your music production book. First off, pretty simple. You've got your keyboard and your mouse. You can see there. I think most people should know what that is. You've also got a computer monitor. You all would have seen one of these, but you might not know what it's called. It's called a computer monitor. The next thing we've got is an audio interface. So some of you may have never heard of this before, and that is fine. You've probably never had to use one. So an audio interface, I've actually got one here because my microphone is connected by an XLR cable. And obviously my XLR cable doesn't go into my Mac computer. Got a little audio interface. This is the Focusrite audio interface. So this is the cable for my microphone going in here, and it's got a little gain so I can turn up and down the volume of the signal coming in. And then I can plug in some headphones here. And this is connected by USB into my laptop. It's a little connection box between my microphone and my laptop. There's also space, sorry I didn't show you, for a jack cable here, so you can plug in an electric guitar. These are great little boxes that you can have at home. They're not that expensive as well. So this is an audio interface. You've also got a MIDI interface, which you can see on page 17. Now we're going to have a look at what different DAWs look like, what DAWs look like. This can be found from page 9 of your music production book. First of all, the basic ones. So we've had a quick look at BandLab already. And here's a picture of GarageBand. These ones are really good to get started with because they're really simple. There's not loads going on, but it has great features which allows you to record audio and make some really good songs. The more professional ones that you might find are Studio One, Pro Tools, Logic, Cubase, and Ableton. I would highly recommend maybe pausing the video here or taking a screen grab. This might come up in your exam. You might have to identify what different DAWs look like. So it's really good to familiarize yourself and have a look at what these are. Now we're going to have a look at the different sections in a DAW, in a DAW. The main one is you've got your arrange window, which you can see here. This is where you can build and view your tracks. This is your main window. Here you can see the arrange window for BandLab and for Logic. We've also got our transport bars. So these are usually found right at the top of your DAW. This will have the play button, the record button, the time code, rewind, all the important buttons. They're usually a little strip at the top. So here you can see it for BandLab and for Logic. They look similar on most DAWs. We've also got the piano roll. So I'm going to show you the piano roll for BandLab, Studio One, and Logic. This is where if you've recorded in using your MIDI keyboard, a little melody line, for example, in BandLab you have the option to input it using your mouse, so you don't need a keyboard. If you realise you've made a mistake, you can open up your piano roll and you can click on the note and you can drag it around and it comes up with this little keyboard so you can see exactly where you're moving it. You can change the note length and where they are. This is a really useful tool for people who aren't majorly good at reading music. It's really helpful to see, and you can drag and move about if you've made any mistakes. We've got the sample editor next. This is what the sample editor looks like in BandLab and in Logic. So this is where you can view your audio files. In BandLab, you can also pitch shift and you can change the playback rate. You can even reverse the waveform, but we can go through that at a later date. This is where you can look and manipulate your audio files. Next up, we have a drum editor. So this is what a drum editor looks like in BandLab. Not all DAWs will have one, but BandLab definitely does. And I think Studio One has one as well. This is where you will find a little drum machine. We've then got a mix view or a console view, console window. Some people call it a couple different things. Now this looks a little bit like your mixing desk that we saw earlier. So you've got all your channels with all of your faders. Once you've finished your track, say you've got 10 tracks with singing, guitar and drums, here you can change all of the levels and you can mix your track before you export it out to make sure it sounds really good. In the next video, we're hopefully going to finish up our theory section by looking at sound and acoustics. I'll see you in the next lesson. Well done, and thank you for watching lesson 3. Now it's time to take that quiz and test your knowledge on cables, mixing desks, file formats and DAWs. Good luck!